best receiver in the game, or even top 3, DK Metcalf?
Devontae Adams.
But is DK Metcalf top 3?
100%.
No, he's not. I'm sorry. There's nobody in this world that can convince me of that. Physical specimen, absolutely.
You're going to believe what you believe. I mean, to each their own, but it's at the same time, it's my mind, how I'm going to use DK.
But that sets my argument up perfectly. If DK Metcalf was in 80% of the other offensive systems in the league, he's 75% as effective as he is in Seattle.
How is that true?
Because he doesn't have a tool belt. He can do 2 things.
But that's totally just your opinion. I mean,
no, it's not.
Do you know him?
I know. I've seen his tape.
I just was playing because I love the game. And it's scary to me.
It's really easy for the game to become a job.
Below 6 in his hands, whistle in his mouth.
Man, kids out there playing the game, staying out of trouble, competing. I love it.
And for me, what's frustrating is when people try to talk about all the stuff that they actually don't know. Like we have no clue what goes on behind the scenes.
Right. But I'm just talking about what I've seen on film, on tape, what DK Metcalf can do. It's a limited repertoire.
Very, very, very limited.
That's so to me. If you can't be limited and be top 3. Can't.
Sure. I mean, to each your own. I think you could talk about roster stuff all day long. At the end of the day, it's like I think for sure he's top 3, 100%. Now, in what regard?
Cheated Devontae
just in general, or as an outside receiver, as what?
Well, you only get 5 because everybody's carrying 3 tight ends now, so you can only have 5. So you better be able to do both.
Yeah.
Or you're wasting a roster spot, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think it's very easy to name. I think in 2 years, CeeDee Lamb will be way past.
I would hope so. I mean, just
way past DK.
For the Cowboys, I would hope so.
Right. But watching a guy like that.
Yeah.
Physical freak. Everybody knows it. He's big, strong, fast.
How much does he weigh?
I think it's like 238, 235. I think it's like a really stupid number. DK.
Oh, I think I'm a CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, no.
I think it's half of that.
Yeah, no. But when you look at it long term,
yeah,
I think DK Metcalf wows people with the physical numbers, the things he did at the combine. Yep. But I think at the end of the day, he's limited. And Russell Wilson does a really good job in the control that he had in that offense. If he stays or goes, whatever.
Yep.
But he did a really good job of highlighting those few things that he did really, really well. But I think from a sustainability standpoint or a diversity standpoint, that's what makes you a top 3 guy in the league is your ability to do a multitude of things. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's 8 guys in front of him that can do more. Now, maybe with less physically.
Yep.
They're not going to run down Patrick Peterson and turn into a meme, but, they're going to be able to do 4, 5, 6 different things within the system themselves. Stephon Diggs made a really strong argument for himself.
No doubt. I agree.
But with all that being said, welcome home, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Glad you're back.
Thanks.
It's a long, almost 2 years.
Yeah. Almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost 2 years now. Actually, no. Yeah, 2 years. It's over 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, February 6th.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It was the day after the Super Bowl left.
So 2 years in Tennessee.
Yep.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the game of high school football in Tennessee is going to be comparable to most states within the United States. Your outliers being Texas, probably California, maybe Ohio, but it's going to fall into that kind of good majority.
Yep.
So 2 years up there, compare the games.
I think people have asked that before. It's so hard to compare because it's split in Tennessee. I mean, it's private, public. It's almost 50-50 down the middle. Up to 3 years ago, private was playing with public in the same league. I mean, they just switched that. So it's different. I would say the biggest difference is just the consistency across the board. I mean, so you're going to have an incredible private school, Brentwood Academy, right? they're the IMG of Tennessee. And then you're going to have, the private school that, they can barely win one game. You know what I mean? And they have one player that maybe he belongs to be there. You know what I mean? And they're right down the road. And then you're going to have a public school, Ravenwood, that's great. And you're going to have one right next door that, academically, they might be shut down in a week. So there's a lot of different dynamics to where it's a lot of this, and to where as you look at Texas, sure, there's schools to where they struggle, but it's pretty consistent across the board. There's going to be great teams every single week.
I think that's one thing that, you and I both know that there are the blue bloods of Texas. When it comes to Texas high school football, there's those schools that everybody knows. They're a name brand, the Cadies, the South Lakes, the Alitos, the
Salina.
Allens. Sometimes, we still try and hold on to that here at Salina. But I think what's interesting is that all it takes for any school to go from that lower tier to a competitive middle tier is the right hire at the right time. I think from a public school standpoint, the structure, foundationally, the opportunity to be good is available to everybody, and I don't think that that's the case at most states when you look at high school football.
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. It's I was talking to a coach today just about the academics and the difference there. A lot of the schools and coaches in Tennessee would ask, how is it academically? How are you guys public school, but you have such great academics? I'm like, that's just the standard that's set. If you suck as a school, TEA is going to come in if you're not meeting the standards and probably fire everybody, bring in their own teachers, and they're teaching the rest of the year. And so that's kind of the standard in Texas to where, they have their standard in Tennessee, but it's just different. Whether it's the funds, the expectations, I'm not sure, but it's a huge difference from a private to a public school. Especially in the inner city, what they call Metro, and it's like, kind of feel bad for them, you know what I mean? Because they're an incredible team the first 5 games of the year, you know what I mean? And then you just see a huge drop off, and it's just sad to see. At the same time, there's so many diamonds in the rough in Tennessee. I will say that. There's a lot of incredible players that don't get looked at. I'm not sure what the issue is. It's probably Texas, Florida, California. That's always kind of your top 3, but there's definitely some diamonds in the rough. They're great there. But now when it comes to Texas football, I think there's something to say about the public schools and being able to grow up and play with, you're a senior in high school and you played with the same kids since Pee Wee. I think that's special. You know what I mean? Not to knock on private schools because I had an incredible experience, and you're going to recruit. Everybody recruits. You have to. You're going to get beat. Adapt or die. But at the same time, I think it's special when you can, and I get it, people do move in sometimes, totally get it. But I think it's special when you can have this team that for the most part, they've all played together forever and they won state. I think that's very special.
For sure. I had an old teammate, I heard something really similar talking about diamonds in the rough. He spent a year coaching in Louisiana. And he flat out said that there were Power 5 guys walking the halls that they didn't even come to practice, right? And those guys just fall through the cracks. So, there's always that, like, the long living debate between, Texas, Florida, California, as far as who's churning out the best quarterbacks, the most Division I kids. Max Preps, I think it was, just put out a thing
Georgia,
comparing
too. Georgia,
right?
Yeah.
Comparing who had the most 5 stars, for the next senior class. And I think that, speaking solely from the experience I do have, I think one of the best things about that is that the state does a really good job of maximizing opportunities for kids to fulfill potential. So Absolutely. You don't have near as many kids that do fall through the crack or go unseen or any. Now, obviously, there's always going to be those guys that just don't get noticed or don't get picked up within their high school program, and you have those what if conversations. But I think for the most part, you can say that there's long-term success in finding kids, giving them opportunities to be successful, prove what they're capable of, so they do have opportunities at the next level if they so choose, much more so than probably the majority of high school football across the country.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think that brings up the topic from a college perspective of, I've heard this a lot, a college coach saying, well, the issue sometimes with a Texas kid and recruiting him and bringing him in is maybe he's already tapped out. He's had the great coaches. He's been to all the meetings. He's had all the development. So how much better can he get versus, a kid that maybe they didn't have any meetings at all in their school. Maybe he barely went to practice and he's just a freak and he balled out wherever in Rhode Island. I don't know. Right. And, they get him and it's like, well, man, his ceiling is way up here. Which, I mean, I can see that at the same time, like, for me, it's one of those things where it's, the kid's good, take the kid. But
exactly.
At the end of the day, it's like, well, why fault us, in Texas or, California, whatever, for having the good development and faulting the kid for that. So that's a huge topic in the last couple of years.
I think you and I can both agree that, speaking from firsthand experience, that the other side of that is, smaller schools struggle with maintaining Texas kids that get recruited, because if you did play at an Allen or an Alito and you spent your high school career in the best facilities in the state, and then you go to a Division II school or a small up-and-coming 1AA, and you're used to 120-person team meeting room, you're used to a weight room that's got 32 racks in it, you're used to all these things, and then you go to college and you're telling yourself, this is nowhere near what I'm used to.
Yep.
I think kids can really struggle with that, and it can deter guys from recruiting here.
Yep.
I just talked to a guy who's got some friends in at a program that's making the transition from Division II. They're in their probationary, moving up into the WAC, and the joining the WAC is presenting an opportunity for them to recruit into Texas a little bit more. But those were kind of the two things that they talked about, simply money, getting down here from where their school's located, and then the retention from year one to year two, because guys can get burnt out not having, all the bells and whistles. Because, we try and talk to kids about, like, it doesn't matter, just get better, all this, that, and the other. But at the same time, those same coaches who are telling you that are going out there fighting tooth and nail to get what they can from the community, to present them with the best training facilities, the best meeting rooms, and all of that. So it's a double-edged sword. And there are situations where it can backfire on a kid as he moves on to the next level, depending on what level that is.
Yeah, how are you recruiting from Sol Ross?
I mean, it's
you can go to
tough.
Walmart an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. But, for us, I got Tarleton. Obviously they've upgraded. But for us to have this set up was in the nursing building. Our team room was nursing building. So it's, you go there and it's like, here's our team room. We walk across the street to the nursing building at night, make sure there's students in there, doing extra work, and then we can meet in there.
Yeah. Study hall.
You don't have this.
Study hall be in the nursing room, same building across the hall.
Yeah.
Make sure you bring your ID so you can swipe in.
Yeah. I actually had a coach this past year, came in to recruit. Can't remember where from, maybe in the Pioneer League or something like that. But anyway, he came in, and I go meet him in the parking lot. I walk him through the indoor. He sees, like, George Kittle, all those guys working out. So he's already kind of like, what's going on? And then we walk, across the Mustang walk through the new weight room. That's incredible. Through the locker rooms that are like wood grain. And he stops halfway through and he's like, Coach, we ain't even got to sit down. Ain't nobody coming to where we're
these
at
kids
right
ain't
now.
coming to us.
Coach, are you sure? We can take a seat and just talk. Coach, all good. Don't worry about it. I'll just lead me out. I'll go home. Okay.
You don't want to laugh at those situations, but they exist. It's like I was telling you earlier, the MJP guys have started training here.
Yep.
We've got a couple other athletes, professional athletes, that spend some of their off-season time here working. And it has nothing to do, some of them, they're not even football players, but they're simple presence.
Yeah.
It reaffirms or it raises the standard. And that's the big thing for us, is that, one thing that our guys hear me say it ad nauseum is, the standard is the standard. So when they see guys at the peak of their game professionally, guys that are getting paid to do what, these high school kids say they want to do, coming here in the off season to train, the appreciation, the valuation of the facility itself. We got a senior in high school, one of the catchers on the baseball team, all spring training report, was within the past couple weeks, but he had a professional pitcher in here, 2-3 times a week that he's catching bullpens for, and that's not even to say like this kid's going to be a Power 5 kid, but he's getting to catch a major league pitcher, before he goes to his high school baseball practice. Those are just kind of the experiences that can reaffirm a kid's love for the game or his commitment to it, his drive to go to the next level. And they're really cool experiences. And to bring it full circle, it's all connected to the facilities.
100%.
100%. So you're walking that fine line, that double-edged sword of we want to present our kids with an opportunity to have the best of the best and train them like champions, but at the same time, you have to still remind them that this isn't why you do it. This is just a part of it.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's same thing in Lipscomb. I mean, Lipscomb didn't have the best rap before, from a football standpoint. I mean, they were great. For a long time, they were Coach McAdams and kind of went through a dry spell, which everybody does. But when they kind of transitioned from public to private, and anyway, I remember walking in there and Dante Hightower, George Kittle, Corey Davis, Sonny Gray, and one of our trainers, Jeremy Holt. He's training all of them, and I'm like, hold on. So if I go to this school, if I'm a kid and I go to this school, I can just at 2:30 every single day, I can potentially walk through and ask George Kittle, hey, whenever you slam flat here, what's the best technique? Doing this and that. Or if you get a 7 technique, how do you do this? Like for free. You know what I mean? Like that's branding. That's that's recruiting, and it's an incredible experience. But it speaks to the facilities.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, the guys were in there training today, and a couple of our younger running backs, they're both sophomores. They saw they kind of broke up. MJP guys did, and they took the running backs down and we're doing some angle routes and things like that, shoot releases and whatnot. And, here's these 2 15, maybe 16-year-old kids just 10 yards away, soaking it in, shooting videos, being able to, hey, what do you think he's trying to do here? And, it's a unique experience that, I know a lot of schools don't get, and, we never want to seem unappreciative of the fact that, we have the facilities that professional athletes say, hey, that's good enough. Let's go train there. So,
absolutely, yeah.
But talking about more our level, state 7-on-7, the state of Texas has a separate entity that does a 7-on-7 state tournament. The high schools can host the qualifying tournaments. It's made up of the high schools, but the coaches don't coach them directly. But anyway, State 7-on-7 just said green light.
The coaches don't coach them directly.
Right, directly at all. We're just there to watch and observe.
We're under tent, not saying a word. We're not having, relayed messages, nothing.
At all. But 7-on-7 just came out and said green light. We're going to put some protocols in place, but they released the dates of their qualifying tournaments. They released the date of the state tournament. And it'll start mid-May. And the state tournaments at the end of June. What do you think? 7-on-7. First off, big question for you, because I think this is something that can get kind of lost in the shuffle. 7-on-7 beneficial? Yes or no?
I think that's a convoluted question there.
100%. I did it on purpose.
Yeah. Yes and no. It's it depends. I've seen some wing T teams that they practice their passing game in 7-on-7 doing that. That's good for them.
And have success.
Have success with the same thing over and over again. Makes me feel like I'm just doing too much. They pop pass every single time and it worked. But then you also see these teams where it's kind of drawing the dirt and quarterbacks are taking a 3-step drop and then they're basically taking a hitch 12 yards linear in front of them. And they're throwing it at the line of scrimmage, and it's like, okay, well, what is that doing for us? In that case, no. And so I think it's all about how you monitor it. I tell my quarterbacks, like, I wish, if I could, each snap you take your drop or you do your RPO footwork, you do whatever it is, and I wish I could put like a box around you, like stop play, put a little box around you real quick, and then you can't go anywhere from there. Throw from there. That way you can't be that guy that's like and you're moving up 12 yards. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's what really bothers me. At the same time, like it's football. They're having fun. Like they're doing something. You know what I mean? And that's where I think you can have these arguments. At the end of the day, they could be out in the street.
Exactly.
So.
I think from our standpoint, you hit the nail on the head. It's a tool. It's a vessel, right? How can we be competitive, be building the chemistry, and be getting better at what we're planning on doing August through December?
100%.
If you're coming out here and being a completely different version of yourself, that's not going to translate. Well, now you're wasting time.
Yep.
But big picture, teams together, chemistry is being built, and you're competing and having fun. We just had a conversation yesterday with our kids talking about, the commandments of our program and what's important. And, one of our coaches asked our unit group, hey, tell me what you think are the most important. Give me your top 5 of these 16. And, then we also did it, and we did it from the perspective of a coach. And I just looked at it, and one of them was have fun. And I put that number 1, hands down, because I think it's really easy for guys to, especially in the off season, hey, you got to work really hard. You got to do this. You got to, we got to meet. You got to understand everything. And it's really easy for the game to become a job. And that's the big thing that I've heard, even when I was in high school, transitioning into playing college ball, transitioning into coaching, those guys, when they first make that jump to the college level, it's a job now. Mm-hmm. And, I was fortunate enough, I never really saw it that way. I saw it as more work, but I saw it as more work to do something that's fun.
Yeah, well, I think you also had, influencers, your coaches, you had pretty good coaches that
100%
were all about having fun, and they never let that, get left in the dust.
100%. And I think that's where the concrete and value of 7-on-7 can come to play, because we're giving those kids an opportunity, like you said, to not be out running around stupid,
right,
but competing and having fun and maintaining their love and their joy of the game. And if it's with us and through our 7-on-7, that's even better.
Yep.
But I still think that as long as you're maintaining those certain aspects, had a conversation with, a pretty prominent private coach that he has a 7-on-7 organization. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Coach Flight, but, that was one of our things that we really agreed upon, is that we can have open communication. You coach a select 7-on-7 team. I coach at a high school. As long as we talk all day and you're not out there completely going against what I'm telling him, man, kids out there playing the game, staying out of trouble, competing. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree.
So do you think we're select 7-on-7 teams big in Tennessee? Was 7-on-7 big in Tennessee?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Really?
they're getting after it right now. Like select. I mean, they just had a few tournaments, Smoky Mountains. They're getting after it. It's really big.
It's really funny because seeing, some of the select teams in the Metroplex this past weekend went all the way to Atlanta.
Yep.
To
Pylon
play,
or something like that?
to play in a big tournament. And then there was like 2 or 3 big Atlanta teams that were down in Houston playing in a tournament, so they're just passing each other in the air to go, they're trying to go play against the best of the best, and they're doing it at the same time, and they're just passing each other on airplanes. So,
well, I mean, it's funny because, everybody knows, like, whenever I was there at Lipscomb, you have like 3 or 4 personal trainers, but they're also, similar to like Coach Flight. They have 7-on-7 teams, and, whether it's, Jeremy Holt or Riley Howard or whatever, and they have their own teams, and they know, Coach Rowe, out in Fast Houston, and Rashad, Footwork King, like they know all about it. I mean, it's a big deal, and it's one of those things for me where it's like you see coaches that are like, not about 7-on-7, and well, it's not tackle, and it's not real. What's the point? It's like, well, they could be getting worse, could be in the streets. And at the end of the day, if they don't do it with your team, they're going to do it with a select team. So. Either
get on board or get out of the way.
That's right.
100%. So kind of the last one, I think this one's going to go off on, it could go 3 or 4 different directions, but
Great.
we met in 2013 and you were already 2 years into your coaching, student assistant coaching career.
Yep.
And had, college, all that experience cut short for, medical reasons and whatnot, some injuries and everything. But from any point, from high school, comparing high school to when you were playing to high school now, college when you were playing to now, and coaching to now, pick one tell me how the game has changed. Good or bad. Doesn't have to be super critical. Could be the greatest change in the world, but how's it changed?
I mean, I think it's the trickle effect that we've been seeing. I mean, you would hear a lot of NFL coaches talk about how, they kind of miss college football because college football, even 5 years ago, they were playing because it was fun. There were no payments happening, no nothing. And I totally get it. I mean, to each your own. Go get yours. You know what I mean? If they're going to put your name on that jersey, yeah, I'm with you. I want that money too. But, I mean, I get the other statement as far as it was fun, it was genuine. Because some people take advantage of that. And it's like, well, if you're not going to pay me, I'm not going to play. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of trickling down now down to college. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just hoping it's not going, college. Because now you're hearing those college coaches like, man, I kind of miss high school football because it's a little bit more genuine there. It's starting to become a little bit more business-like here. And it's scary to me. You know what I mean? Especially, you can almost tag it all the way back to the private school thing when it comes to having to recruit.
Tell the story. I know it's like hanging on keep it as anonymous as possible, but tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, so we had a select group there, kids that I think they were like sixth grade actually. And a kid messed up his finger. And I just happened to be there. I wasn't there like observing or watching,
right,
picking who I wanted. And so, see the kid, I hurt his finger or whatever. I'm like, oh, well, I can get him some ice, something like that. So, we end up walking and we're talking. I'm like, what's going on? Trying to have like a genuine conversation. What position you play? Why do you play football? You love it and this and that. And, so what are your plans the next couple of years? Well, I'm going to go to, blank school. They already offered me this. What can you guys offer me? And I was like fumbling my keys around trying to like get in the door. And he said that and was like, what? Like, dude, you're in sixth grade, man. Like, when I was your age at this point, I was still trying to get like the headache off of my helmet, out of my head, because the helmet still had that huge pad right there in front. Like, I just was playing because I love the game. Like, I had no clue about like, well, they offered me 60% at this, at this high school here. What can you offer me? No, I just love playing the game. I love getting hit. I mean, that's scary to me, because now if you look at it from a recruiting standpoint, if I'm recruiting a kid that's been, offered per se, whatever, I mean, it's financial aid, but offered as a sixth grader or whatever, recruited from a sixth grader, fifth grader, it's pretty hard unless that kid's got some, disciplined parents that can, instill the humbleness and say, hey, no, do not get that big head.
Right.
You're playing because you love the game, not because of what it brings to you.
For sure. Yeah, it's, I agree. It scares me. Because I think kids get calloused of that love of the game, because they see, their idols, their favorite players are so readily available through social media. They can see how they're handling contract negotiations, how they're handling college recruiting, right? And we did the same thing. The kids haven't changed. All we did was emulate our favorite players when we were growing up, but it was, Michael Irvin used to make this catch like this in the Super Bowl. So run out there, countdown clock, right? Or the Jordan like crossover, 3, 2, and shoot. Yeah. So we emulated them in that way, and kids now are just emulating what they can see, correct, on a day-to-day basis. And it is, man, it's weird. Like,
well, they're exposed to so much more. And what's scary about that is they see so much more. And so, I'll speak from the other side of it and be devil's advocate. Because they can see so much more, they can see how some of these greedy owners or whatever, how they operate from an early age. And so it's like, well, so it's cool for them to do that, but not for me to want to get mine?
Yes.
So I can totally see both. And again, no right or no wrong, but it's sad because regardless, it's taken, the love of the game out of it, and it's more about money and business and, well, what can bring in the fans and this and that, and it's sad.
It is, and it's like, so, here you get to see it before we sat down. We are very blessed. We have a couple years ago, we got a new stadium upgrade. Mm-hmm. The community loves their football here, and we love them for it. Yep. But it's weird having, after about 6 games into the new stadium, had a conversation with a coach on staff, and it's like there's these little weird nuances we miss about being downtown. We have a track around our field now, which we didn't downtown The stands were, people were 5 feet from you when you're standing on the sideline calling plays, talking to kids. And it created that, that really small town, but like intense atmosphere.
Yep.
And we lose a little bit of that here. Now we love what we have and we're very appreciative. But a lot of people connect that to the changing times and, the growing community and the changing expectations.
Right.
But, that part connects back to, a kid's approach to the game of high school connects back to what we talked about with the facilities and, the changing expectations. Whose fault is it? It doesn't matter.
Yep.
The fact of the matter is, I think it just puts an emphasis on coaches to be more conscious and put forth a bigger effort in making sure the kids are reminded of why they do it, reinstilling, that love for them as athletes and them loving the game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And everybody just being a little bit more cognizant of the purpose. You see all the time, based off of who you follow, coaches associations, things of that nature. We don't do this for wins and losses. We don't do this for kids to get 37 offers. We do it to turn young boys into young men who are productive members of society. Our head coach has said it. You've heard a couple of college head coaches saying, "Don't ask me how good we are now. Ask me in 15 years." Yep. And where the captains and the seniors of this team are in their life. And I think that's all it is. Nothing's, the game's changed schematically and this, that, and the other, and the ball may be shaped differently, like you were saying with, the ones we use, because that's the ones our quarterbacks like. But
I mean,
I think if anything, it's just reminding you that, there's a couple more distractions, but as long as you keep your eye on the prize, the race is basically going to be run the same, and the end result shouldn't change. The goal shouldn't change.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll ask a lot of my athletes like a basic question, and it's hilarious, and sometimes kind of scary as far as their answer once I stop them. So I always ask them, "Hey, real quick, why do you play football? Hey, don't give me the quick because I love it. Think about it real quick." And there hasn't been very many that just kind of pop something else off. They were like explain to me like the love of the game. Like think back to third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, whatever. But explain to me like, why do you play football? And like not a lot of people think about that. Why do you coach? And like don't give me the cliche answer. Not saying that that's wrong, but like actually think about it. And I think you kind of like end up when you do that, kind of puts you like back in perspective and realize like, man, I'm kind of just been, passing by all the things and kind of just being business and doing this and doing that. And I need to like be grateful for what I'm doing right now.
Did you ask that question to kids before you went to Nashville? Or do you think being in the private school world?
I did.
You did? Okay.
I did. Absolutely. Yeah. I think I started doing that at Taylor actually.
So why do you coach? Why do you love the game? Don't give the cliche answer.
No, I know. It's for me being able to, I know the coaches that I had, and this is probably a lot of people's story, but I know the coaches I had, the good ones, the ones that I wish would have paid more attention to me or whatever it may be, but the impact that they had. And I know the stories that me and my friends talk about today. It wasn't like, man, remember that time that we took that test in geometry? Like, that was great. Like, no, it was like we remember the practices and all that type of stuff. And so it's like it's a lasting impact. And so, from my experiences, it's like you have this ability every single day. And for me, it's like a challenge. Like, you have to have a switch. And that's what I preach to my quarterbacks. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like there's days where I don't want to be here. Like, I'm not going to be that coach. It's like, yep, I'm here I'm ready to go. Like, no, there's days where I'm tired. I really don't want to be here. I'd rather be in bed with my wife, right, with our 2 dogs, watching TV, bed reclined up. I'd rather be doing that. But if I do that and I show you guys that, I am now screwing you guys over. I'm doing you a disservice. We just lost a day. And so I have to have the ability to flip that switch. You call it fake it till you make it, whatever. But for me, it's you flip that switch, we're rolling, we're going. Because I can't screw them over. And I would hope they have enough respect for me to flip that switch on when it's like, man, I had a bad day. Girlfriend may have cheated on me, not sure. Just saw her in the hallway, another locker of a dude. I don't know. But the good ones can flip that switch, be mature enough to kind of take that over and say, you know what, I can't lose a day. That's
David Goggins. He always talks about the most powerful thing in the world is the human mind, right?
Yeah.
And I think the switch is just the decision your mind makes to be more powerful than the emotion, the negative emotion that could be distracting you.
Yeah, I mean, and for us too. I mean, go back to your question as far as why do I coach? I mean, it's obviously love it. It's incredible. It's the best game in the world. But the ability to impact the kids. I mean, like we had a kid today that I'm not gonna say his name. I'm not gonna say what he did, but if he was to have done what he did today outside of a school, it wouldn't have been good at all. I mean, he would have been with the law, and it would have been a bad deal for him. And I think and I hope that we got a hold of him quick enough, sat him down, talked to him about the switch, because he didn't have that household. He didn't have a mom or dad that's telling him what to do. And a lot of these kids are like that, and they need us. And so even though generally it's the ones that act like they don't want us at all are the ones that need us the most. And so I hope that today's lesson for him changed his life. And so many of those kids need for us as coaches to realize that at the end of the day, you being able to sit that kid down and say, hey, man, are you good? I got you. Instead of like, hey, man, you went 4 steps. It's supposed to be 5. God, terrible.
Terrible. I think, I mean, for me, you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you anyway. For me, the reason why is the opportunities. So big picture, sit down, think about like, what has football done for me? Those selfish moments where you're like, I give so much. What do I get in return? I can't even begin to describe what my life would be without the game because it's been so entrenched in so many different major chapters, major moments, defining moments, right? Lowest of lows, highest of highs. You don't meet people that are in your life forever, certain people, right? That's not to say you won't somewhere else, but you don't meet those people and you don't get that impact. The opportunity, everybody talks about the opportunity. That's not just the opportunity, to go to college, to get money. It's not just about that. It's about a kid that doesn't have 30, 40 friends walking around the halls. Mm-hmm. But on senior night, the whole team goes crazy because he went in and played 4 plays.
Absolutely.
Right? That feeling, that's the opportunity that he got.
Yep.
It's some kid from the inner city Houston that gets to travel out of state for the first time and be in a state during the fall, beginning of winter, see the literal changing of the leaves and the emotional impact it has on him to not be staring at, third ward.
Dude, yeah.
And then on top of that, you work your way up the ladder. Yeah, it's the opportunity to change your life monetarily, mm-hmm. right? But you're changing your life incrementally, and those moments compound mm-hmm. to present the opportunity for the big, payout. But they don't just exist for the guys that get to go play in college or the guys that get to go play in the league. Right. They exist in a million different forms for guys who are just part of a high school program, and they may never play, and they're okay with it because of the experience and the opportunities it's presented for them socially, emotionally, physically.
Yep.
Talking to a kid who within our program, new to the program, we try and feed our kids every chance the UIL gives us, right?
Yep.
Have time with them, build relationships with them. That was one of the first things he said. He said, Coach, I've never eaten this much, and an experience like that can change a kid's life.
Yeah.
So,
we have these stories probably for days, 100%. The last one I'll say in this regard is we had a kid come at Lipscomb, me and Coach Dilfer's first year, came from North Carolina, dad's past year, 6'7", probably maybe 280, maybe 3 bills, big boy. And I remember whenever, mom and dad, they came and they're sitting in our office and Will's sitting right there. And Big Will, literally, he may have said 2 words. And we were in there for like an hour. May have said 2 words. He never played football before. I think the only 2 words he really ever said was a small conversation. He's like, I like football. Well, okay, well, do you want to play football here? Blah, blah, blah. Because his parents were trying to get him, like, they felt bad because they moved and he's going to be a senior. I think actually at the time a junior, but going to be a junior, and he just left his friends. And I felt bad for him, wanted to be a part of something. And I remember they walked out, and I was like, Coach, there's no way. 2 weeks. I mean, we're going to have to be on that kid all day long to make sure that he feels, a part of something. I didn't say, like, hardly anything, wouldn't speak. Literally, fast forward. And maybe week 4 or 5, we had a big win of the year this past year. He's a senior, and walk into the locker room, and everybody's celebrating. And Big Will is without a shirt, with glow sticks in his hands and a whistle in his mouth, and this is the life of the party, and is just screaming, and everybody's like, just Will, Will, Will. And like for me, I was like, man, that's why I coach.
100%.
Yeah. Devontae Adams, you like him? Where do you put DK? Top 5? Hate to see it. Maybe this is a rough draft.